Well, welcome to Global Leaders Local Coffee. I'm joined today with Julie Johnson Roberts from Armored Things. So thanks, Julie, for joining us.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
Well, great. Well, I always love to kind of start out and let the audience know. Can you tell them a little bit about Armored Things and what you guys are up to there?
Yeah, great. Armored Things is a crowd intelligence company. So we specialize in people and flow. Prior to COVID, we really were focused on everyday operational security and staffing for large venues, universities, and corporations with a mission to keep people safe. So that's always been our lifeblood. So you can imagine back in March, we said, how do we now keep people safe in a new world where crowds are limited and COVID is the new reality? And so since March, we've really been working on things like occupancy limits, density alerts, and helping use utilization schedules for things like sanitation. So it's been an interesting 5 months to say the least, and I'm happy to chat with you.
Yeah, and I'm sure things COVID related, such as campuses opening, stadiums opening, all those kind of things, have you guys very busy.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I'd actually love to hear from your side. What's your experience been in the EDU space?
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I like to say the first, maybe 2 months were a bit of everybody trying to figure out how do we support our clients the best we can in this environment. We adapted a lot of products. We were obviously taking care of our team and making sure they were, work from home transitioned well and they were safe. And then it shifted really quickly to the clients, right? And what can we do to help them? What products do we have that need to be enhanced or changed or implemented differently? To just give more flexibility. So that, that's how we've been navigating. I've always found in the last 10 years of building Flywire that, sometimes crisis, I think, brings the team closer together, which is also brings a lot of clarity very quick in business, I find.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. I think we found the same thing, after I think a stark transition from everyone coming in every day to everyone being at home every day, we had to take a step back, right? Our first priority is internal, right? How do we make sure our internal team is ready to go? Our next priority is our customers, our partners, all those relationships, because we can't stop just because everyone's staying at home. And I think fortunately, early stage companies, especially kind of SaaS-based companies, tend to be more ready for this than others, right? We've kind of been built digital first, ready to go. I imagine that you all experienced similarly that the transition to home was more of a cultural change than it was actually a business change.
That's right. Actually, for us, I like to say, the transition to home was actually harder on our clients, right? And so that was the adapting for us, was to figure out how do we help them kind of with that transition where, industries like for us, education, healthcare, even travel, right? A lot of our travel clients are used to being very active, traveling themselves. They're, leading people on heli skiing trips. They're, part of safaris. They're not doing those things. And so, we've just found that just being able to help our customers through it. And our transition was actually relatively easy compared to theirs. So that was a big learning for us as well. So tell me, we have a lot of folks who are either thinking about building their own company or are young leaders. And so I guess one question that I would ask you is, going through this crisis, is there anything you kind of learned or anything that you would recommend that, others kind of understand when navigating a crisis?
Yeah, and it's probably something that I was starting to learn before the crisis as well, which is that growing a business is hard, but people is always the hardest part. So, my orientation as a leader needs to be people first, thinking about the impact, like we were just talking about, on our team, thinking about scaling. How do we scale the team? How do we support the team? And people also have the most complicated dynamics. People are unpredictable. That's actually our business, is trying to predict and understand people in large venues. Right. It's hard. It's hard when it's a team of 25 or a team, the size of your team. So, people say it must be raising capital that's the hardest. It must be finding product market fit that's the hardest. It must be scaling that's the hardest. I think people is the hardest. And in a tough time, in a crisis, the way that you talk to people, interact with people, and work with your team, I think says a lot about who you are as a leader.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Well, shifting a bit away from business and more on the personal side. So first, I missed asking you, which is the first time I've missed asking a guest. Are you a coffee drinker? Are you a tea drinker? Are you drinking anything in particular this morning?
Yeah, I'm definitely a coffee drinker. Nothing against tea or tea drinkers. But today I'm being very predictable. Boston-based company. I've got my Dunkin' whole beans ground up and I'm ready to go. Yeah, absolutely. How about you?
Yeah, I'm actually trying something new today. So I had the folks Atomic Coffee Roasters out of Boston. The title of it's Simple Summer, which is a bit ironic because I think this year it is a pretty simple summer for most of us, but it's actually very good. So been enjoying it. Been enjoying probably too many cups this morning, but it's going well. So you mentioned people, which, you know, and understanding people and understanding self, which is a big thing here at Flywire. Like, you know, I think understanding people, it has a belief that the person has to understand themselves. And I think as we've all grown up, as we've all evolved, we've learned who we are. We learned what made us who we are. When you think back to kind of your childhood, are there things that indicative of your career right now? Are there things that you look back on and notice? Always a big believer that, you know, we're an output of so many factors, and that's such an important thing to understand.
Sure. I think that there's always been an element of outward facing confidence that's helped me right early in life. You know, one of our employees grew up with me as a great friend. And she teases me that we met because I walked up to her the first day of school and said, "Hi, my name is Julie Johnson. Will you be my friend?" Right. But I was an introvert. I love to read. I love to have, you know, quiet activities by myself. And yet I could put myself out there and say, you know, I want to have you in my corner. And, you know, can you still be in my corner to this day? I think that that has been a lesson that has carried forward through high school, college, first jobs, starting a company. And what you learn is that everyone is just waiting for someone to say, "Will you be my friend? Will you be my partner? Will you be my customer?" Right? And building those relationships also builds trust.
Yeah, I think very well said. You know, again, I always think that open and frank dialogue, even in business today, you know, I think a lot of companies, probably like yours and in ours, you want this direct set of feedback and this openness, and yet there's something I think that pulls most humans away from that directness, or even when they think they're being direct, they're not necessarily being as direct as they could be. So it's good to hear from an early age that you had that directness, because I think it's really important, right? It's so hard to navigate business when you don't have that directness. I think it's really critical to have it.
Absolutely. You know, on the topic of you know, personal growth and evolution, I was listening to an interview with you and Casey Renner from OpenView the other day, where she mentioned your journey as an unintentional CEO. I'd be curious to hear, in your experience, you know, what shaped your journey? How did you become that CEO? And then, is it actually unintentional, especially now that you've been in the role for some time?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting one. So, you know, our journey at Flywire had been one where, you know, I actually was a VP running sales, marketing, and business development first. And you know, when I say truly unintentional, you know, I got an email from the founder, Iker Marcade, on a Friday at 5:30, saying effectively, "I want to go back to Spain. My wife's pregnant. I want to raise my family there. Will you be the CEO?" And that was about it, right? And anyone that knows Iker, like, that was kind of his personality too. So the fact I got kind of that email on a Friday afternoon, and I joke, I wasn't sure I was up for it, right? I was definitely what would have, you know, what is seen, I think, in many ways as a pretty young CEO back then. And you know, I'd always wanted to maybe build something or start a company on my own, but I never just even contemplated kind of inheriting one or going into the role in an existing company I was in. And frankly, the business was tough back then, right? I mean, we were 30, 40 people. You know, we didn't, you know, we were starting to get to product market fit, but we were very distracted. You know, we had a lot of things that were unclear in our future mission. And I actually thought if I took it, I'd be the shortest tenured CEO. So I actually said no twice to the board. And then they were just overly persistent. I actually told them they should go find someone that knows how to do the job. So thankfully, they didn't listen to me, I guess. And it's been a great journey. I mean, I absolutely loved it. You know, I knew the business so well, being here 18 months prior to taking over. There were very little surprises, and it's been a fun journey to see the company go from the 30, 40 people to nearly 500. So it's been fun. Well, great. So one more question from me, and then feel free to keep turning the tables. I like it. So look at COVID, and, you know, are there things that you miss in the old world? You know, if there was something, though, you know, if the world would return back to more level of normalcy, I don't know that we'll ever return to the way things were. for a lot of good reasons, for flexibility and maybe a little less unnecessary business travel. But, is there something you do miss kind of in this new world that you kind of long for?
Yeah, totally. Overall, I actually think the transition's been very positive, but I definitely miss the energy of the office, and I miss those small, unintentional touches, right? When we talk to the team now, it's so intentional. It's planned, it's booked, it's coordinated, it's scheduled. There's nothing unintentional about it. I think sharing those little victories along the way in the office has a really great effect on the morale of everyone working together and being aligned. So I sometimes worry that while everyone's running, you have to take that time intentionally to make sure you're actually running in the same direction. And again, it's a much more explicit kind of alignment than before when we were sitting next to each other, 12 hours a day and making sure that we're all thinking about our priorities similarly. I do worry that there's certain groups that are going to be left behind more in a work from home world, especially depending on how schools go back and when they go back and when childcare comes back. I think about that a lot. We have a diverse team. We have a lot of women in leadership positions. And we can continue to build that, I believe. However, the stress levels are definitely going up for our team. And that's across the board. That's not just women. That's anyone who's a caregiver, whether that's for parents, kids, other. So certainly I worry about those things, but my hope is that our team is supportive, our team is understanding, and we can work through those things versus, what we don't want, which is losing people, especially people who are helping us build an awesome company with a great mission.
Yeah, I think it's definitely evident. Stress levels are up across the board for people, and effectively, I like to say that personal and work lives just collided, right? And they kind of smashed together. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have in this new world. I miss the small moments too. I miss traveling the world. I miss seeing our teams, going to dinners, casual coffee runs, in our Singapore office and our Valencia office. I miss seeing people in ways that are less scripted, just like you said as well. Well, great. Well, any final question for me before we wrap up?
What's the best thing you've listened to recently or watched?
Yeah,
or read?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the How I Built This podcast, which I'm addicted to. And I just listened to the Ring one with Jamie Siminoff. And what was fascinating to me, and I actually I was with Jamie at Babson together. And so hearing that story and hearing some of the headwinds he had, they were just so shocking and so direct. It was a great story of the stuff that you overcome when you're building a company, some of which just seems impossible to overcome. So that was the best thing I listened to, and I just listened to it last weekend.
So same kind of content, wisdom from the top. I just listened last night to Ellen Ochoa, who is the second ever director of Johnson Space Center, first Hispanic woman to be the director of Johnson Space Center. Fantastic interview with Guy Raz. She talked a lot about transitioning an organization whose motto was failure is not an option because you're dealing with life or death, into today, which is if you're going to fail, not on the mission critical things, but on other parts of a dynamic business, fail fast and fail often, which I thought was a great lesson that you can actually be both, right? We want to protect people. Right. Failure is not an option. But if we're going to fail, let's fail in the areas that can improve our business, fail fast, fail often, move forward. So
yeah, no, I think that's great. Identify those failures and fix them, right?
Absolutely. So I have one more thing, Mike.
Okay,
if I'm not wrong, I think today is your birthday.
It is. Unfortunately, it is. Oh, look at I love the little emojis. Yes, it actually is my birthday. So thank you for that awkward moment. Yes, I keep getting older and older as we go. But I'm punching out around noon, and I've got four boys, and my boys and my wife. We're going to go have a fun day out by the pool. So it should be a lot of fun.
Well, happy birthday and have fun by the pool.
Thanks. Well, Julie, thanks for joining me. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully everybody in the audience enjoyed it too.
Thanks for having me.
See you later.